Hey, what's up? It's Dominic D'Angelo of Podcast Heat Wrestling, adfreeshows.com, and brassringmedia.com. Check it out. Yes, I'm here by myself today. Robert had an emergency work assignment he had to do, so you're stuck with me, DPD. Paul's my middle name, by the way. But hello to all you out there tuning in, watching, ready to get some wrestling news and some wrestling insight, maybe some intake that you have not really thought about. And I have a little something special to share with you all today as well. But first, let's say hi to some folks in the chat. We got Triple E saying, "What's up? What's up?" Tony gone. Jay entrance is still going. Right. We're going to talk about that for sure. We're also going to talk about this. Trey Owens last night was LA Knight's worst promo, in my opinion. Jeff Henniger, thank you for joining us. Says hello, RNI. Triple E, he said it right. Y'all should have joined RVD live last night. 100 times more interesting than Raw last night. Me and Rob and Katie Forbes, we all went live and we had really fun discussion. It was a really, really fun time. We caught up on some things. Rob gave some thoughts about current wrestling situations. It was a blast. So be sure to check it out. Really, really fun episode. It will be up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today on YouTube, on rvdtv.com, and wherever you get your damn podcasts. So if you haven't tuned in yet, now's a good time to tune in. But also, like Robert and I made the announcement yesterday, we are on Podcast Heat. If you are watching anywhere on YouTube, I implore you to go to the Podcast Heat Wrestling channel, because that will be our primary base where Robert and I will be hosting. We're on a whole bunch of different platforms that we still will remain on. However, the main hub will be Podcast Heat Wrestling. The plan is you can do super chats there. So you can, if you want to help the show and ask questions, you can pop up a super chat on that channel and it will go and help us out. And so I really implore you to go to Podcast Heat Wrestling on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the like button, help support the show. And if you do feel like doing a super chat or anything like that, I'll be more than happy to answer questions, as I usually am anyways. So, but appreciate everybody tuning in and coming along with the ride with us. So we're happy to be on the Podcast Heat Wrestling YouTube channel, along with some other great shows on there too. There's the Wrestling Hour with Josh Chernoff and Dave Sturcio. And then there's also the Massive Heat Show with Matt Morgan, Jack Farmer, and Raj Giri. Raj Giri, my former boss at Wrestling Inc. And then there's some other stuff too that you got to check out. Cassio Kid and WCW legend, referee legend, Nick Patrick. They do the Nick Patrick mailbag on there. So a lot of great content on there that you can also enjoy and help support as well. So go to Podcast Heat Wrestling YouTube channel, support the show that way. And hey, I got a little heat last night. Sure did. Somebody that we all are familiar with actually shared this tweet with me. It was not on my radar. And I figure I would talk about this today to get a little bit of heat cooking on Podcast Heat YouTube. If you're not familiar, a month ago or so, I was called out on Jim Cornette's podcast for being a poor host for the Magnum TA Greg Gagne Power Town Wrestling figure situation. You can feel free to dive into that if you want. I'm not going to go into detail here because it would take the whole show. But basically, I will admit, I don't think I did my best work facilitating what it is, but that show, when it came to people, fans, and anything like that, asking questions regarding Power Town Wrestling. And I got trashed. Cornette, in his former fashion, trashed me in a funny way. Very dated, but funny way. And then Brian Last, his leech of a podcast host that you never see, that you never hear from. You do hear from him on Jim Cornette, but you don't ever see his YouTube views, which he tried to criticize me for, suck really bad on Arcadian Vanguard, his channel. So he was very hypocritical. And, I fired back with my own videos that I did. Well, so lo and behold, a tweet got shared with me last night. Mr. Brian Last decided not to invoke my name, but to call me out. And here is the tweet here. So, somebody's asking Brian, Powertown is calling itself the Wrestling Collection, as you might know. The email with further offers. I'm hearing the pod about IOU's delayed shipping. Have you heard that they corrected their problems yet? Well, Brian Last decided to say this: Powertown hasn't corrected anything. No figures have been shipped, and who knows if they were even manufactured. No straight answers. Magnum TA, Greg Gagne have been radio silent since the podcast they did, where the wimp host sucked them off instead of getting answers. Wow. So, Brian Last, and I said this when I made the video last time. Brian Last acts like he doesn't know who I am. And I think he's got a pretty good hunch of who I am because he actually kicked me off on Arcadian Vanguard interview once. And we weren't allowed to air it because I was associated with, guess what? Ad-free shows. So he knows who I am. And I think Brian Last is projecting his aggression and his insecurities out on me. Because if you ever heard of the psychologist, I guess, yeah, or psychologist, Carl Jung, there's a philosophy and insight called the shadow, where you have things inward. Basically, you have your inner feelings and insecurities about yourself, and that's your shadow. It's things that you hate about yourself, that you don't like about yourself, and then you project that onto other people. I think Brian Last is doing that to me, and it's very funny because he does not show his face. You don't know what he looks like. He only his bread and butter is Jim Cornette. He doesn't do anything else when it comes to interacting with people or anything like that. He's just an insecure man baby. So if Brian Last happens to catch wind of this, feel free to tweet it to him because he blocked me. He's blocked me on X. And that was a long time ago he's done that. So he definitely knows who I am. So Brian Last is indeed last, in my opinion. So figured I'd start off with that because I just don't like the guy. And he clearly doesn't like me. So, hey, Brian, go after yourself. All right, here we go. Let's talk about Raw. So I'm with a lot of you guys tuning in today. Raw was very overall kind of underwhelming. I said this to a buddy today at work, where I'm like, yeah, I tuned into Raw, and I was like, and it made me think about like what really engages me about Raw. And I think the main thing that gets me fired up about Raw is CM Punk. CM Punk is the crux of what really, I think, squeaks the engine, gives the oil to the engine that runs Raw. He is the oil to the engine that runs Raw, I think. He feels like appointment television. He feels like, on that level of a Cena, a little even above Cody, I would say, to an extent, because of his history and, his reach and everything to that effect. So when he's in a high profile program, I feel like tuning in. Well, Raw kicked off with CM Punk versus Jey Uso. And I thought that it was an engaging opening segment. And, Punk said some cool things to Jey Uso, put Jey Uso over, kind of took some light, friendly digs at him, but really wanted to invoke Jey Uso out on his own. He wanted to get the best of Jey Uso and wants to beat Jey Uso at Saturday Night's Main Event. So I thought that was pretty intriguing. But then Raw just kind of leveled out, and we got a lot of a sing song and dance of a lot of things that kind of felt recycled or repurposed, and just the same old when it came to Raw. Ultimately, I will say this: I think they're really, Jey Uso's entrance is a lot of fun. Jey Uso has if you're looking back at recent theme music, obviously that's one of the most recognizable that has been recently made is the Jey Uso theme. But they're really, really heavy-handed with like, hey, let's play it again. Let's play it again and do it. And I think it was clever that Punk did it himself too. and the fact that he was like playing into stealing Jay's stuff basically. But I WWE's got to be careful of making the cool not so cool anymore. And if not necessarily say the crowd wasn't warranting, hey, play that song again, but that entrance took forever, forever. It was so long. It was so long that I noticed it. So I was actually, when I was tuning into this, I had it on my earbuds when I was actually at Target, and so I was listening to the opening of Raw, and I just heard the entrance for so long. It took forever. I couldn't believe it. It's WWE's got to be careful about that. Like, you know, uh, keep those things, make those moments feel special. It doesn't have to be a WrestleMania entrance every time for Jey Uso. You can make it fun. You can make it quick. And I know you want to take up some time too, probably in the same light, but look, you're not doing Jay any favors when you do that. And then when you hammer home the point, hey, let's play it again after he just had like a 20-minute entrance, yeah, it's really long in the tooth and it's kind of drabby. But I did like the opening segment. Um, and I don't want to certainly criticize all of Raw because I thought it was fine, but there wasn't really anything to really write home about. Like in a go home aspect of, hey, you're getting Saturday night's main event this Saturday, and let's get you excited for some matches. Well, I'm still intrigued by Punk and Jay, but then you just had like Jay and Jimmy cross paths like two different times backstage, where it was just like Jimmy calls him out like for like throwing him out and all that stuff, and the gameplay going against the game plan, and then later on, for some reason, they're just both still walking around backstage, and they run into each other again. And Jay's like, "Hey, I thought about what you said, and I love you, man, and I just been going through a lot of stuff and all that kind of thing." And then they make up like brothers do, like me and my brother would do, basically. I don't know if we'd be walking around backstage and then just run into each other. I think we'd probably just I'd call him out on his shit or stuff. Sorry, and or vice versa, and then we would probably argue, and then we would level it out and be like that. I don't think, or then we'd finish it off with a phone call. We wouldn't run into you, walk around backstage again, and be like, "Hey, man, I thought about it, and you know what? Yeah, I'm sorry." I don't know. That just felt kind of weird to me that they readdressed it right there. Um, let's see. But let's pull up the W Raw results. Probably should have done that before I started the show, but I was too busy uh, looking at the Brian Last stuff. Anyways, all right, here we go. So yes, the opening segment. Then we had Penta versus Rusev. I thought they handled this well. I'm not a super like big fan of them doing crazy stuff like people kicking out of their finishers and stuff like that. And I know you want to make uh, this match feel special and big and important because it's a number one contenders match. But like I would try to really curtail like people kicking out of finishers all the time because it's just going to become desensitized on. And if you're doing it on a weekly program like Raw, those moments aren't going to feel that special that much. So I did make note of that. However, I like that this match didn't stay that long, and it was Dom and El Grande Americano and his other luchadors coming in and spoiling all the fun. And Robert predicted right because he said he could envision this as a triple threat, and sure enough, it's going to be at Saturday night's main event. Dom versus Rusev versus Penta. I do like the aspect that is this a sign that they're going to turn Rusev babyface? Because I think that would behoove him and WWE at this moment in time. Because I mean, think about Rusev Day and how over that was. Rusev just feels like he's treading water. He feels like he's like a little bit of the level of Sheamus at this juncture, but he just feels like he's window dressing on a program that's, we're so used to seeing. If you turn a babyface and you let him utilize some of his personalities, his like sense of humor, not to the level that AEW did, where he's like a video game nerd and is cheeky and all that stuff. But like when he had fun with Rusev Day and like you make him this like world beater, like there's the balance that you can find with Rusev. Also, and I'm kind of glad like he that Rusev was on this show last night because it made me also want to talk about what I saw on SmackDown too. And I think it's something that is clearly important, but has been getting a little overlooked by WWE too. And I just mentioned this with Jay. Uh, Ilya Dragunov and Rusev, they need new theme music. Both those guys, big time. Uh, Dragunov, especially too. If you're making him a babyface, his theme stinks. It's like just like a bland thing that I feel like somebody made on GarageBand. When like same with Rusev, it's really boring and forgettable. Uh, give these guys some new music, big time. Dragonov, especially, like in particular, you want it to feel like a big deal when he comes out and he's your United States champion. And he's this guy that's, yeah, maybe he's like, smaller in stature, but he's clearly bulked up and put on muscle. And he's just like this unpredictable, hard hitting badass. Like, give him an appropriate theme because that theme music he currently has, forgettable, like really bad. Same with Rusev. Give him a new theme. Both these guys need it. They deserve it too. Like, these are personalities. Like, it's such a big, big aspect that makes you want to tune in to these stars and make them feel like stars. If they come out to this forgettable loser theme, like, it's not, you know, you're not putting them on the highest pedestal that you can. There's not this air of coolness or badassery or like even an air of mystery to these people. Like, music is so important, like with wrestling, it really is. And so I'm just kind of surprised that they have just such bland, blah music just because they're from Bulgaria and Russia. It's just like give these guys something with some oomph behind it. So I thought that was pretty notable as well. Um, but overall, I did like the execution of this match and how it just ultimately did turn into a three-way. We had Nikki Bella versus Roxanne Perez. Perez defeats Bella. I think this kind of hammers on the point that Vicor did make the save, but I could imagine Nikki Bella just turning heel at some point. It's like I just feel like that's the formula for this. I don't know what would be next for Bella, and so if you get Bella to turn on Vicor, then you have a feud with Vicor and Nikki Bella and Bella as a heel. So I think there's some elements to that. All right, so we talked about this a little bit. Well, Dre Owens brought this up. LA Knight cut a promo backstage, and while I don't necessarily maybe think it was his worst promo, it wasn't a promo that really stood out to me. Little clunky in certain aspects, and that's kind of what LA Knight has done over the past several months. Like, it's somewhat he'll trip up a little bit. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, in certain elements, I trip up all the time. When I'm doing these shows, when I'm cutting promos, even for like IWC, like I'm somebody that tends to trip up. So it's like no fault there, but it's just like yeah, I don't know. It's a very sing-songy formula that we're kind of used to with LA Knight. And, I don't think he necessarily said anything that was super duper special where it's just like, hey, I lost. Yeah. So what am I going to do? I can take off my vest and take off my sunglasses. And, but what I never used to doing is giving up and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, okay, okay. I just think there's another way that you can cut the turkey. I don't know the phrase, but whatever. It's just like there's another way you can skin the cat. That's what it was. Because yeah, that's right. Skin the cat. There's another way you can skin the cat, and I think there's a different way you can do it, for LA Knight. So yeah, now as this match goes, LA Knight just straight up loses. I was kind of considering like did LA Knight almost hurt Braun Breaker? Because there was that corner spot where like Braun leaps up, and then LA Knight trips him, and like Breaker kind of lands a little awkwardly on his head, as almost like, the spot that trips him up, but it's like that almost looked like that wasn't supposed to happen the way it did. And I was like, man, did LA Knight almost hurt Braun, or what happened there exactly? Um, but I liked the finish to this match. It was a cool sequence that, like, LA Knight countered. He did his like leap up elbow drop, which I think is cool. Like, it's like he leaps up from the second turnbuckle to the top and then jumps off with an elbow drop. Well, by the time he leapt up onto the top rope, Braun kipped up, and then he ducked underneath LA Knight once LA Knight jumped off, after LA Knight scouted it a bit to readjust. So LA Knight like rolls through, I think, and then he turns around and boom, spear. That's the end of the match. So I thought it was really good. But what does that mean for LA Knight? Just like I said with Nikki, I could see them turning LA Knight heel, because he's just not getting things done as a babyface. Like, from a storyline standpoint, he's getting eliminated from battle royals. He's losing. He says stuff, and what he's saying is not necessarily being backed up. So I could kind of see them being like, okay, let's turn LA Knight heel, and then we get another foe for our babyface roster, and like maybe then you can kind of pivot if Punk wins. If Punk wins the championship on Saturday night's main event, then you have LA Knight, a heel LA Knight going up against a CM Punk, or a heel LA Knight going up against a Jey Uso. So there's some options there going on. So that's kind of my thought process on that. We had Sheamus versus JD McDonough. I like the outcome of this match. JD McDonough gets the win after Baylor helped use the shillelagh. I think that's important. I think it's important to get these guys like a Finn and a JD back in the winning column. And if JD, we're so used to JD being fodder, so often than not for the Judgment Day. And so him to get a win against Sheamus kind of feels good, it seems like they are confident in what JD McDonough can do. And so they want to protect him. And so that's a good sign. It's a good sign. Sheamus is already a legacy star. So he's kind of established, and, you can heat Sheamus back up if you ever need to and stuff like that. But I thought this was done in the right fashion. All right, let's get to that main event. Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss versus Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Excuse me. I thought overall it was a fine match, and like there was some really cool stuff. I thought the finish was pretty darn sweet. Charlotte Flair locks in the figure eight, and Bayley looks like she's about to tap, but it's Lyra who stops her from physically tapping out. And usually I'm like, that why wouldn't she just tap out with her other hand? But I kind of bought into this one because Lyra dives in, grabs her arm, and she's talking to Bayley as it's going on. So she's almost coaching her not to give up on that aspect of it all. So I did like that. And then they ultimately finish with a double natural selection and get the pinfall. What people maybe been expecting with Bayley's personality and everything like that, that things would implode between Lyra and Bayley. I'm kind of glad they didn't. But that being said, nothing really happened besides the Kabuki Warriors coming out and kind of clearing house and getting the upper hand on the baby faces and, ganging up on all of them. So, I do like the intrigue of the Kabuki Warriors going up against like Charlotte and Alexa. And, there's some good potential for that. But like this was a flat ending to Raw, like, because it was just like, that's it then. That was it. And then on top of it too, I did make note of this. Now I liked the dynamic between Kairi Sane and Asuka. Like they're on the same page, it looks like. But like we've been so used to this Kairi Sane, almost afraid of Asuka, and now she's like buddies with her and stuff like that. And they're on, so it's just like I don't know how much I really necessarily feel like maybe if they're getting rid of that, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about all this stuff. But like Kabuki Warriors are good. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are good. So that's intriguing. This episode of Raw was it was just low C minus maybe. I think that's kind of being it's not being generous. I think that's fair. a low C minus. Um, let's see what people say here. Yes, no Robert today, Sebastian. Thank you for joining us. Robert is had a personal work thing he had to get done, so you are stuck with me today. Lou says Rusev Day was mostly over because of Aiden English. That is true. Aiden did add a good part to that, didn't he? Didn't he? Now, considering that he's with TNA, you could probably bring him back, right? You could bring him back if you really wanted Aiden English best in that. Um, mm, let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah. So this made me think about it too. Devin says, "I love when Triple H and Steph would get into a fight, and then the next week they'd be like, last week you said this to me. You're telling me you two haven't talked all week?'" Yeah, that's so. Well, so with the Usos though, it didn't seem like they talked because like how it got presented on Raw was like they indirectly implied that they had conversations before and that there was just some stuff stirred up between the two still, and like they just readdressed it again almost. So it did. I don't think they pulled the wool. Like they were just trying to play off like, oh, they didn't talk all week because hey, this is a television program. It felt more like they did talk before. And but yeah, I get what you're saying because so often that doesn't happen. Like for example, on SmackDown, when Sami Zayn came up to Dragunov to congratulate him, like saying like, "Hey, I didn't get a chance to congratulate you after your match last week, but I wanted to say really, really good job." It's kind of understandable that they wouldn't run into each other maybe after that all said and done. But I mean, like, wouldn't you if you're like on the same roster together and you're actually buddies in certain ways, or you're, even associates, you'd probably have that guy's number. You'd be like, hey, congratulations, or you give him a phone call. So, like, yeah, in today's day and age where everybody's accessible and you have everybody's phone number, like, some of this stuff is a little bit like, yeah, why'd you wait a whole week to talk about this? And that does happen on WWE. And I just don't necessarily think it may, if that's what you're referring to, Devin, is the Usos. I think they kind of made it seem, though, that they talked. Um, uh, Wrestling Old Head has. Too bad Cornette fired his animator because I want to see that image now. Yeah, I was a little bummed. Like I want to see, I want to see me in Hanna Barbera style, right? It would probably be something grotesque. I'd be doing something weird. Like, yeah, definitely something weird. So I don't know how much I'd want to see that. Um, let's see. Looking at your comments. Wrestling Old Head. Now I want to see Rusev versus Dragunov. Yeah, that'd be sweet. You could do that open challenge. Have Rusev show up there and challenge him, and then Dom cost Rusev that match or something. That'd be kind of fun. Let's see. Oh, okay. So Sebastian, whose promo did you like against Punk? Jay's promo against Punk. I thought Jay's side of thing wasn't that bad. He kept it short and sweet, and I think that's okay. But it's just like so much of the same stuff because you're getting, hey, let's hit my points of my catchphrases. We had this long entrance. It just felt like Jey Uso, what we get with Jey Uso every week. Wrestling Oda, it says Knight may be legit frustrated when he grabbed that sign that didn't seem like it was planned at all. I'm not familiar with the sign. I must have missed that, but yeah. LA Knight really must have pissed Bruce Prichard off. He seems like he's about to get carrying cross. Yeah, I don't know. Like LA Knight, it's definitely, it doesn't look like he's on the upswing, that's for sure. So, like, the only thing I can guess, are they turning him heel and then working with a heel LA Knight? I think that would benefit him, like, in a big way at this point, because, if you're not having him, if you're having him lose straight up when he's one of your quote unquote top baby faces on Raw, then, like, you better just turn him heel. Sebastian, he is very over, but I think you could turn him heel. I think you can. He can get rid of the stuff, and like you immediately flip the coin, and then people start not liking you because you're not doing that kind of stuff. And he's shown that he can be a good heel too, especially if you look back at the NXT days when he was with can't think of what Trevor Lee's name was in NXT right now, but when he was feuding with Trevor Lee and the $1 Million Man and with Ted DiBiase, um, then that was good stuff. He was a good heel back then. So um, I would be intrigued to see a heel LA Knight if that's what they decide to do. Mm. Yeah, does LA Knight attack Punk after the match? Maybe. Yeah, I think maybe he could be a big crux of Saturday night's main event, the finish Saturday's main event at the end. Um, Sebastian, Wrestling Old Head, referring to Sebastian in the chat. I'm not sure Eli Drake would really fit into AEW. He can get a great opponent, but his style of wrestling isn't exactly what TK is looking for. Yeah, I understand that. But maybe that would make him stand out at the same time. If they decided to really make him feel something, like make him a big deal. You know, LA Knight going to AEW could be beneficial to both, honestly. If Tony, because it is a different flavor of ice cream. LA Knight, I think Cody's like a better wrestler than LA Knight is. But LA Knight wrestles more of that old schoolish kind of style where it's not the athleticism that's a huge focal point like we see with AEW. But that's what made Cody matches feel kind of special in AEW, where that they were different than what we're used to seeing. So LA Knight could actually be elevated by that aspect of it all. Um, True. Jeff Hanger says LA Knight kind of has an out because Bronson and Heyman did get involved. That's true. So that is fair. But yeah, I think, but when it's said and done, it's like he just lost too, though. Like, because like LA Knight hops up, Braun kips up, Braun avoids him, boom, spears him. That's it. That's it. Um, so Sebastian disagrees with Wrestling Old Head, and I'm kind of in the middle though, because I do think it would take due diligence on AEW's part to get LA Knight over in AEW. But like they would have to make sure that he's positioned in the right manner. And do I have the confidence that AEW would do that? No, because they have the only person they've really done that the right thing with through and through was Sting. Like Sting is the only guy that has been handled in the best fashion possible. Anybody else you name on that roster has not been utilized to their utmost ability. And I know it's a tough thing when you're booking and injuries involved and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like you need to have a game plan if you bring in a big star and, and you got to make the most of them. So it would be it'd be a two ended affair right there where you need both parties to be on their point. LA Knight not to get injured, LA Knight to be on board and willing to be somewhat malleable, but at the same time too, you need AEW to put him in the best manner and best light. And I think he would be a refreshing aspect to AEW if they were to get him. So um So, I'm kind of with Sebastian on this too. And I know Robert would push back at this, but I'm with you. I think LA Knight maybe should have been the one to win the Battle Royal last week because for even the simple aspect of you could still do what you're doing with everybody. You could still tell that story that you're telling with Jay. You could tell maybe this story of LA Knight if he turns heel, but like you get this dynamic between him and Punk ultimately, like where they cut some promos on each other and like you let LA Knight sink or swim too with this promo exchange. Can he hold his own against Punk? Because it's been before where he got thrown off by Punk. What was that? Like a few weeks ago, he got thrown off by Punk, where Punk came back at him with something, and LA Knight did not have a retort for him, and like he got him off guard, and like that kind of stuff might be harmful, to the LA Knight persona and stuff like that. But I mean, like iron sharpens iron, right? And so if you can fire back and hang with Punk, then you can make it like then that's a benefit to everybody. You, Punk, and the fans. So I kind of with Sebastian on that because Jay winning the battle royal just felt like almost like okay, so Punk is winning this title because they wouldn't put it back on Jay again right now. I just don't think that would heat the title up for enough time in WrestleMania. I know they're really talking the story about how Jay needs to win and Jay needs to do this. So, but I'm kind of with Sebastian on that one. Um, oh, Wrestling says, I'm not saying he wouldn't get over. I'm just saying his style isn't what we're working in AEW. Yeah, again, I think he's more closer to a Cody Rhodes than he is to uh, for the Will Osprey. But like I think that's would he would stand out because of that if AEW put him in the right light for something. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on here. Wow, good conversation though. Look, we're having a lot of good discourse going on. Appreciate everybody. Man, there's a lot of comments. Treya also adds, LA Knight should have won the Battle Royal. Then you have Jay go crazy. Also, thought they were going to do a triple threat, Knight, Punk, and Jay. I'm happy they didn't do a triple threat, especially if you're having a triple threat with Dom, Rusev, and Penta. So I'm happy that they didn't ultimately do that. Yeah, and Jeff also adds 2 weeks. It was a triple threat with LA Knight. Saturday night's main event is 1-on-1 with Punk and Jay. Yeah, I'm with it. If you're gonna have like a title match, just make it 1-on-1 between two people, Punk and whoever. So yeah, I'm with you. Let's take a look at the dirt sheets here real quick. See if there's anything I should address before closing on out here. Let's see. Oh, look at this news headline. This regards Jey Uso. Apparently, he was interviewed at some point. Let's see where he was interviewed at. Main event Jey Uso. Oh, this is on the Raw recap. I mean, nothing's really changed on me, Oos. You know, I still have fun. I still throw a party every Monday. I still like the kids, man. I still yeet with them. It's just, man, when the bell rings, I got to switch modes now, man. And if I'm trying to get to the top, get back to the top, got big hitters in front of me. I got guys like, man, CM Punk, you know, guys like Gunther, guys like, you know, Seth Rollins. Get well, Oos, but like, I got a heavy list in front of me and I just can't play. I can't play no more, man. I'm tired of like people saying I'm just an entrance or whatever. It was like, I ain't got no skills to hold it down up top, man. So I just switched modes. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I might be going back to the old ways, thinking, you know, bloodline ways, but man, that kind of mentality, got to get the job done. So they are like highlighting this aspect of Jay changing his focus and his thought process. So yeah, that's kind of neat. Adds further stuff and fuel to the fire before we get to Saturday's main event. But yeah, this Raw was kind of like whatever, you know. It wasn't. It's nothing that I would write home about. And yeah, it just kind of felt like stuff that W's got to be careful with. And I know this is kind of like a down. Still, we're in the off quote unquote off season maybe of wrestling as we heat up towards Summer or Survivor Series and what have you. But yeah, you don't want to do too many of these. I understand you got Monday Night Football and it's football season too, but like nothing felt that big of a deal. Even like as you know, leading off with Punk and Jay, you know, that was the biggest thing of the night, and that didn't really feel that big, to be honest. Like it was good and stuff like that, but it wasn't like, oh man, yes, I need to see this match. The stakes felt better. I'm intrigued by the match. I'm intrigued to see what happens. But like I said to start off the show, I think Punk is the crux that makes me tune into Raw. If you remove Punk from this show, it's a pretty forgettable show. It really is. So like Punk is kind of like, I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way. It feels like Punk's carrying the show. Like, so we'll see. We'll close it off with Wrestling Old Head says, I think JK would sign Eli Drake. That's the thing. But we know how to book him to his strength is the question. That's all I'm saying. Not taking away from Jake's ability at all. Right. That's what I'm curious about too. I just don't have confidence. There has been with the exception of Sting, there has been nobody that has been properly booked through and through in AEW. That includes your top stars. That includes Swerve Strickland. That includes Hangman Page. Even includes Will Ospreay. Like, definitely includes Will Ospreay. Like, at this point, shouldn't he hold the world title? Like, at this point in time? Yeah. So, but yeah, LA Knight, if they're not done with him, like they better be turning him heel. So Punk was, um, I think that's kind of a fair one. Granted, Punk had his injuries, so yeah, I'm with you, Sebastian, on that one. I think Punk was ultimately booked well, so I take that back. So Punk and Sting, how about that? And the only reason that obviously, what went down with Punk and AEW was, you know, like very obviously the brawl out and all that stuff caused some things. But yeah, if you're looking from a booking standpoint on the show and how things were probably supposed to go, Punk was booked pretty darn well overall. So yeah, I can give you that one. So Dre adds, outside of the women's division and Dom Mysterio are always struggling on the main event, their mid carders are fine. Yeah, there's again, you have someone like Penta who is really, really hot starting off, and like the water's kind of been dumped a little bit on him, where it's just like he feels like part of the roster, and like even that number one contender series match is, kind of intriguing as it was. It didn't really feel that all that special. And like Penta felt pretty special when they made him debut. So how do you get that up? So okay, I think that'll do it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you haven't yet, like I said, go to Podcast Heat Wrestling YouTube, on YouTube, type Podcast Heat Wrestling on, subscribe to that, and tune in to that channel, because that's where you can, do super chats if you want, help out the show. I'll always, even if there'll be moments, say for example, like Robert has to leave and we have some super chats lined up, I'll always be happy to stick around and answer super chats for people, if they get posted and stuff like that. Just because, I like that helps out the show. It's a new opportunity for me and Robert to kind of, help get money on the show and help that kind of thing out. So if you do want to use super chats and stuff like that, I can try to think of some clever stuff that maybe we can do too, ultimately. Maybe at some point, Robert and I could do a giveaway or something. I don't know. But either way, I appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you use super chats or you don't. So thank you all for tuning in. Robert should be back tomorrow to talk a little preview the AEW Dynamite that is set to go down, and we should have a good time. But in the meantime, yes, you can follow us every Monday through Friday here at Podcast Heat Wrestling on YouTube, at Rumored Innuendo YouTube, at the Ad Free Shows YouTube channel, on Oh You Didn't Know YouTube channel. So we're streaming on 4 different YouTube channels. Believe that. And then we're also streaming on the W Creative _ X account, the at Dominic D'Angelo X account, the at Watch Pod Heat X account, correct, and at SC Scoops X account. So this is Dominic D'Angelo. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Best of luck in your future endeavors. And remember, if you're not first, you're Brian last. See you tomorrow, guys.